Before the days of Magic the Gathering and Pokémon, card games were primarily confined to those that could be played with your standard 52-card deck. These games formed a central part of socialization in wholesome households, usually brought out after dinner for some fun family bonding, and used in games like Go Fish, Old Maid, Crazy Eights, Hearts, and more. But in July of 1982, a new card game hit the shelves of American hobby shops that was far from wholesome. In this game, the cards featured disturbing drawings rather than numbers. Drawings that portrayed politicians, terror attacks, wars, pandemics, and tragedies that, in later years, would be seen as prophetic visions akin to those of Nostradamus. Today, we will be discussing the Illuminati Card Game. Were these cards just a bit of fun that coincidentally predicted future events? Or did its creators have access to secret insider knowledge and use the game as a way to covertly warn the public? Find out now on this week's episode of Let's Get Haunted, the Illuminati Card Game Conspiracy.
Welcome back to Let's Get Haunted
with your hosts,
Nat Strawn
and Aly. Welcome back, Haunties, to episode 237 of Let's Get Haunted. We are your hosts, Aly and Nat, and we are the only investigative journalism podcast about shit that may or may not have ever happened in the first place. Today, we have a conspiracy-based episode prepared for you that's equal parts zany and spooky. But before we get into that, Nat, can you explain to our listeners how the show works?
Sure can. Each week, Aly or Nat take turns telling a story that they researched themselves. So that means this episode, I have no idea what Aly is going to tell me about. So if you've never heard of this subject either, we're along for that same ride. And then guess what? We reverse that. So next week, I'm going to tell Aly a story that she's never heard of. It's really a profound way of storytelling and running a podcast. Never been done before, copyrighted. Nobody else could think of something like that except for us, honestly. So if you did not like this episode, then stick around and check next episode because you might like it more than this episode. It really depends. Aly and I have totally different methods of research and attention spans and interests and personalities. So we tell stories completely differently. Basically, no matter what, you need to listen to 2 episodes is the deal. It's kind of reminds me of these pair of socks. So they're called Pair and a Spare that I always buy. You pay for 2 socks, but it comes with 1 extra sock that's in a different pattern than the sock that you bought. Yeah, and then if you buy another pair and a spare that has the matching pattern of the sock that you want, then you got 3 pairs. Does that make sense? And so psychologically, you're like, I have to buy 2, otherwise I'm wasting my opportunity for this 1 extra sock that I got, the spare,
right.
You know? But if I buy 2 sets and they both have a spare that matches, then they go together and then I have 3 socks. It's girl math, as they say.
Wow, that is really smart. So we're going to use that same methodology here on our podcast, and you got to keep listening to our show. You got to go back to episode 1. You have to stick with it. If you don't like it, too bad. You have no option. If you're watching this, it's because the universe wanted you to see it. And that means you've got to stick with us until you get Stockholm Syndrome and decide that you like the show after all. For those of you who don't know, we also have a Patreon. And on Patreon, we have extended cuts of this intro that you're listening to now. I think that this is a good spot, or as good a spot as any, to dive into today's episode. Nat, are you ready to buckle the fuck up and learn about one of the most meta conspiracies possibly of all time?
Yeah, this is crazy. I just heard your hook and I've never heard of anything like this. I'm like, an Illuminati card game, and what happens when you play it? I mean, I'm sure you're going to tell me, but like, these are all the questions that I'm having right now. And you know I love conspiracies, so let's go.
All right, let's go. Part 1, Illuminati Card Game. Today's episode is centered around a popular conspiracy that sprang forth from a 1982 card game simply called Illuminati. The game featured 113 cards split into various factions and groups, such as government agencies, alien races, secret societies, and more. As time passed and history marched on, a new generation of Americans would begin to notice that many of the plot twists and events featured in the card game mirrored those happening in real time. From the 9/11 terror attacks of 2001, to the 2020 global COVID-19 pandemic, to the presidential election of Donald Trump in 2016, just to name a few. Is it possible that these predictions were merely educated guesses, just vague enough to coincide with real life? Or was something more sinister afoot in the offices of the company that created the game? Before we dive into the predictions and coincidences associated with the Illuminati card game, we need to first talk about its inventor, Steve Jackson, and how he came up with the idea in the first place.
What do you mean it predicted 9/11 and COVID? Like, did it have like little pictures on it with the Twin Towers burning or something? Did it have like a little fucking spike protein? Like the Donald Trump card, was it just like, balding orange man? Like, what are you talking about?
Girl, in part 2, after I get through this part 1 brief background, we're gonna look at the individual cards associated with this game that were developed in 1982. And I honestly think your mind is gonna be blown. This is such a fun conspiracy episode where you look at it and you're like, does art imitate life? Does life imitate art? Are we living in a simulation? Was this some sort of, operation whatever to get us ready for future events? It's crazy the synchronicities in this game. Before Pokémon packs would rocket into global popularity in the late 1990s, card games had a much harder time gaining widespread notoriety. In the early 1980s, collectible card games as we know them simply didn't exist. Most households owned just a standard 52-card deck used for classic-style games like Crazy Eights, Go Fish, Hearts, or Poker, and these games were timeless, simple, and easy to play with family and friends. But they weren't products of a fandom or culture in the way that later games would be, such as Magic the Gathering and Pokémon. If you wanted something beyond the classics, you had to step into a niche world of hobby shops, gaming conventions, and mail-order catalogs. These small, tight-knit communities carried strategy-heavy games like Dungeons & Dragons, war simulation games, and a handful of oddball card games. Without the internet to connect players or spread hype, these games grew very slowly, relying almost entirely on word of mouth. Into this landscape stepped a young designer with a bold idea, one that would change the world of tabletop games forever. That designer was named Steve Jackson. Jackson, who is still alive today, was born in 1953 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Around 1966, he and his family relocated to the Houston area of Texas when his father got a job as an accountant for the oil and gas company Exxon. In 1970, he graduated from high school and went on to earn 2 degrees from Rice University, one in biology and one in political science. He then enrolled in law school at the University of Texas before dropping out to pursue his real passion, game design. After leaving law school, Jackson first worked for a small publisher called Metagaming Concepts, where he began developing strategy-heavy tabletop games during the late 1970s. In the 1980s, he left metagaming to found his own company, Steve Jackson Games, often shortened to SJG, which was headquartered in Austin, Texas. Nat, I'm going to send you a picture of Steve Jackson to describe to the audience.
Okay. This is crazy because I feel like this guy is kind of living very similar. I don't know. He's been to a lot of cities that I have been to, it's kind of weird. Cause we lived in Houston and then we went to Oklahoma. And then back to my brother lives in Austin now. My family lived in Fort Worth for a while. So yeah, I feel like I can really picture all of these moves he made. And I have, I know tons of people who went to Rice and stuff. So this is kind of hitting home. Okay, let's see this picture okay, guys, I kind of fuck heavy with this guy. All right. It's a dude with brown hair and a mustache and a goatee, and he's looking down and he's drawing something. But around his neck, you can see he has a lanyard that says, "The World of Vorodin," Vorodin.com, which I'm assuming is some sort of gameplay, immersive experience. And then on his shirt, it says Steve Jackson. And then it has a pyramid with an I in it, and it says io.com. Okay, and she's sending more pictures. Oh, yeah. Okay, and this one, same dude. Oh, he also has those, like, Jeffrey Dahmer style, like, glasses.
Yeah.
I don't know if those were, like, the only choice you could have at this time, because it seems like a lot of people in this time period had those, like, super heavy aviator style prescription glasses. Maybe that was, like, all they had back then. I don't know. But if not, it's definitely a choice. And his shirt says Steve 1, Secret Service, and it has a smiley face pyramid next to it. And he's, like, explaining, he's really moving his arms around. You could tell this guy's really passionate about whatever he's saying. And then the next picture is him at a table. He's playing some game that looks like it says Munchkin Quest, the Munchkin board game. And, yeah, he's there. Is that a Rolex? He's got a fancy watch on, I think. I can't tell if it's a Rolex or not from this picture, but he definitely doesn't strike me as, like, a victim. Like, he seems like someone who goes out, he's driven, he's ambitious, he's talking a lot with his hands, you know, he's head on, the camera's looking at him when it's not candid, and he's making eye contact, like, he's proud. His body positioning in this last Munchkin picture where he's aware that the camera is on him, it's proud, you know. He seems like he's not shy, he's not afraid to be in front of the camera, and he just seems like a passionate guy, which I like. People who are like too meek, like, I don't know, I just, like, don't trust them, you know. Like, people who are like, oh no, like, don't no, like, don't talk to me, like, I'm not worth it, like, just talk to someone else, because I'm like, are you gonna fucking, like, skin me in my sleep and, like, pretend? You know what I mean? Like, I just don't trust people like that. They seem, like, fucking weird and, like, miserable. And so I'm like, I don't know. Like, I would not want to be stuck in, like, a dark room with someone who was like, no, don't take my picture. I don't want to be in the picture. You know, this was like, okay, bro. It's like, whatever. Anyways.
Jury's out on whether or not he wanted his picture taken. I really can't tell you, but his background is very, you know, like, some people have full-fledged biographies when you look at their Wikipedia, and it'll go into, like, even their ethnicity and what their parents did and the names of their family members and whether or not they had siblings. This guy, very little information about his background is actually public, and that could just be because, I don't know, maybe he appreciates his privacy. I don't know, but it was sort of challenging finding out information about him. And so what I've already said is really all I can tell you about his early life. But going into the development of his own company, Steve Jackson Games, which was headquartered in Austin, Texas. At the time, like I said, tabletop gaming was dominated by fantasy role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons. And most companies were focused on what's known as swords and sorcery epics, but Jackson wanted to do something different. He saw a lot of potential and untapped markets if he got outside of that fantasy role-playing scene. So his company specialized in quirky, clever games that mixed humor with strategy. One of his early hits was called Car Wars, which was a game where players designed armed vehicles to battle it out in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, a concept that really resonated with the cult popularity of dystopian films like Mad Max. So he was looking at things that were popular in pop culture, like movies, books, music, and then taking concepts that he was inspired by and coming up with his own unique ideas that could tap into some of the fandoms that crossed over with those already popular things, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, he just, like, he had, like, a very, like, I don't know, he doesn't look meek. I don't know how else to describe it. You know what it is about people who are, like, it feels like they're being dishonest. I get it. Some people are shy. Some people have been through trauma and whatever. They just don't, you know, they're not comfortable around strangers. But why? Is it because you're planning something? If you're meek, sound off in the comments and tell me why. Because I'm fucking pissed right now.
Well, you pointed out his very interesting logo on his shirt, which is a pyramid that kind of is reminiscent of the Illuminati, right? We think of the pyramid with the eye and how it's on the dollar bill, and it's also the Illuminati. And we've never done an episode entirely dedicated to the Illuminati, so maybe we'll do that in the future. But I'm sure everyone is familiar with the basics. It's like based on secret societies, conspiracies, who's really running the show behind the scenes, right? Like, there's the government, government, the public-facing government, but then there's secretly a shadow cabal in the back rooms that are pulling the strings like a puppeteer, right? And you can see that he's playing into that with the logo that's on his shirt, which is the logo for his company, SJG, Steve Jackson Games. So it should come as no surprise that he was also deeply fascinated by conspiracy theories, secret societies, and the idea of hidden forces quietly shaping global events. This fascination found its perfect outlet in a series of novels that had been published a few years earlier called The Illuminati Trilogy by Robert Shea and Robert Anton Wilson. Published in 1975, these books were wild. They were a psychedelic mix of satire, mysticism, politics, and counterculture paranoia. They portrayed a chaotic world where rival secret societies battled for control, weaving together real historical events and elaborate fictional conspiracies. And Jackson read this trilogy and was obsessed with them. And so just like how he took the concept of Mad Max, which was this pop culture cult following phenom, he took the idea of this trilogy called Illuminatus and decided to play on that to create a game.
Okay, I like it.
He's very creative, for sure. So, captivated by the concept and realizing it would translate perfectly into a tabletop game, he envisioned a satirical strategy card game where players became shadowy organizations manipulating governments, the media, corporations, and even mystical forces in a quest for world domination. It would be funny, strange, and unsettling, just like the novels that inspired it. In July of 1982, Jackson released the first edition of his Illuminati card game. Unlike mainstream card games sold in department stores, Illuminati was distributed primarily through specialty hobby shops, comic book stores, and gaming conventions. Ads were placed in nerdy gaming magazines, offering players the option to mail order copies directly from Steve Jackson Games. Without the internet, this slow, grassroots approach was the only way a niche game like this could gain traction at the time. Over time, Illuminati built a ginormous cult following, spreading one group of players at a time through word of mouth. The original card game contained 113 cards, each representing a group, faction, or resource with a twist. Players could control everything from the FBI to UFOs to fast food chains, all competing to pull the strings of global power. As its popularity grew, Steve Jackson Games released a series of expansion packs, each adding new factions, cards, and mechanics that kept the satire sharp and up to date. These expansions parodied emerging political scandals, pop culture trends, and global events, ensuring that the game would continue to retain its relevancy well into the late 1980s and even early 1990s. The strange imagery and oddly specific references found within Illuminati's cards would begin to take on a life of their own in the decades that followed, as fans began to notice weird synchronicities between the events depicted in the cards and those playing out in real time. In the words of Outkast and Goody Mob on the song Get Up, Get Out, "'Cause every job I get is cruel and demeaning, sick of taking trash out and toilet bowl cleaning." And you know who else is sick of toilet bowl bacteria? Your body, bitch! Here's a gross fact. Traditional bed sheets can hold more bacteria than a toilet seat. Yeah, not exactly something you want to lay your face on. Miracle Made bedding is designed to fight bacteria and stay cleaner for longer, with silver-infused fabrics that actually prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth. Thanks to their antibacterial silver technology, Miracle Made sheets stay cleaner and fresher up to 3 times longer than regular sheets. That means fewer odors, fewer wash cycles, and way less laundry. And I'm always looking for any excuse to do less laundry as somebody who doesn't have a washing machine in their house. Not to mention that Miracle Made sheets are crafted with NASA-inspired silver-infused fabric that helps regulate your body temperature. Hot sleeper? Cold sleeper? Doesn't matter. These sheets help keep you in the comfort zone all night long. Something that's very important to me as a person that also doesn't have AC in their home. Oh my God. Am I okay? Upgrade your sleep or give the gift of better sleep. Go to trymiracle.com/haunted to try Miracle Made sheets today. You'll save over 40%, and when you use promo code HAUNTED, you'll get an extra 20% off plus a free 3-piece towel set. They make an amazing gift, and with a 30-day money-back guarantee, there's no risk. So what are you doing? Head over to trymiracle.com/haunted and use code HAUNTED at checkout. Thanks, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this week's episode. Part 2, the cards. Nat, this is the point where I am going to show you some of these cards now. To our audience, if you'd like to follow along and see all of the images we referenced during this week's episode, you can do so by either watching the video version of this episode on YouTube or Spotify, or if you're listening to the audio-only version of the show, you can head over to @Let'sGetHaunted on Instagram to check out the corresponding photo dump. So I'm going to send you first the two most popular cards, and I'd like you to describe them to the audience. I'll text them to you now.
I'm wondering, like, are we controlling the future by playing cards? You know, like, is it like the never-ending story where, like, whatever you write down happens? Actually, it's been such a long time since I saw the never-ending story. I'm not sure if that's what happens in that movie. I just remember, like, a really long flying dog. It was like a snake dog that flew through the sky. But I think there was a plot point in that movie where it was like whatever was really happening was being written in the book. So in this analogy, the book is this game of cards you're playing. And actually, whatever you write in the book, aka whatever you play in the cards, happens in real life. So chew on that. All right, let's see. It says terrorist nuke on the top of it. Oh, okay, shit. Oh my god, this is fucking insane. So this is not a normal thing to have on a card. I don't know. It's straight up the World Trade Center towers. Like, not an artist rendering, not like the Spirit Halloween version. Like, this is New York City and the Twin Towers. And one of the towers has some explosions going on in the middle of, I mean, it looks literally, if you've ever seen when the towers like collapse, like when the plane flies in, this exact floor, I'm pretty sure. You guys go to the fucking Instagram right now because this is not like an artistic like rendering. This is the fucking Twin Towers. And it says on the top, terrorist nuke. Play this card at any time to give +10 power or resistance of your choice to any violent group you control. If used with an action, it must be played when that action is first declared and counts only for that action. If used for defense, the bonus lasts until the end of the current turn and does not count towards goals. Fucking weird ass game. Oh my god.
I just sent you the second card if you want to describe it to the audience.
You guys, this is like so nefarious because these events actually happened. This is straight up the Pentagon, like the military Pentagon, you know, the one from fucking 9/11 that got exploded. In the middle is like a giant fireball, and it says, Pentagon. Each corporate group directly controlled by the Pentagon lets you draw one extra plot card each turn. 6 power, 6 resistance, straight violent government. This game sounds fucking cool as shit, though. Like, I want to play a game where it's like, yeah, +6 to any violent corporation you would like to.
I would love to play this game. I was looking up on Reddit how to buy the game, and I guess it's actually really difficult. You basically have to go on eBay and find the 1995 version, because the 1982 version, I guess, basically you just can't find it anywhere. But the 1995 expansion pack, you can still get on eBay. But I guess there's a bunch of Chinese companies that now make fake packs, and there's this whole community on Reddit that's like, can somebody authenticate my pack? And then people have to be like, I'm so sorry, you bought the fake Chinese version from eBay. It's not the real one. I would love to play it, though. I think it looks right up our alley. So let me explain to you these cards. So the first card I showed you, which you read out loud, is called Terrorist Nuke. It's part of the original 1982 release of Illuminati and remains one of the most infamous cards in the deck. It depicts 2 tall skyscrapers erupting in a fiery explosion with dark smoke billowing upward as tiny figures flee in a panic below. Nearly 2 decades later, on September 11th, 2001, terrorists hijacked 4 commercial airplanes in a coordinated attack against the United States. 2 of these planes were flown directly into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City, causing the massive explosion and eventual collapse of both towers. Conspiracy theorists believe the eerie similarity between this card's imagery and the events of 9/11 is far too precise to be a coincidence. To them, this card is evidence that the attack was planned years in advance by a shadowy organization, and that Steve Jackson or someone connected to the game's development had access to hidden knowledge about the coming tragedy. They argue that the card's existence is not a parody, but a deliberate leak meant to either flaunt the Illuminati's power or to subtly warn the public of what was to come. The second card I showed you, called the Pentagon card, was also included in the original Illuminati release in 1982, and it features a dramatic illustration of the Pentagon building engulfed in flames and partially destroyed. Again, during the September 11th attacks, one of the hijacked planes, American Airlines Flight 77, was flown into the Pentagon, causing a massive fire and devastating one side of the building. For conspiracy theorists, the fact that two separate cards, one showing Twin Tower skyscrapers exploding and another depicting the Pentagon in flames, both existed nearly 20 years before the real attacks, is seen as impossible to explain away as a coincidence. Many believe that these cards were intentional clues left by the real-world Illuminati, revealing their plans in plain sight as part of a twisted ritual of control. Some even say that these cards aren't coincidental, they're predictive programming, a way for elites to symbolically display their power and prepare the public to subconsciously accept the catastrophic events that were to come. What do you think of that?
Okay, I'm writing my thoughts down. Hold on. I have a whole manifesto I'm about to read. 1 second. What was the name of that guy that had the radio show that was crazy?
Howard Stern?
Bill Cooper. Bill Cooper. Okay.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So, first of all, this episode is making me wonder if this guy, because he was living in Oklahoma for a while, had some sort of connections to the same dudes that Bill Cooper had connections to, because Bill Cooper thought that Timothy McVeigh might have been an FBI agent and that the Oklahoma City bombing was a whole inside job. And there was this other city in Oklahoma that was run by white supremacists, and they were like doing all kinds of bad shit. And Bill Cooper, I can't remember exactly what he was on about, but something nefarious and secretive was happening, and it had to do with some of these groups, the white supremacist groups in Oklahoma. And so I'm wondering if this guy somehow knew some of those or whatever, because at one point, Bill Cooper, when he was like super locked in on his conspiracies and like had his own office and just had like other conspiracy theorists with him, they would just be like reading books and like writing stuff and researching all day. He said that some people came in and it was Timothy McVeigh and some other people, and they said that the Oklahoma City bombing was about to happen. And so he was using that as proof, as like, I'm telling you, this is all like a setup, blah, 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 something deeper is going on. And so I'm wondering if this guy was somehow like in cahoots with those people, if we want to like 100% be delusional, and like take the pill and believe that this conspiracy is real. That's an obvious connection, in my opinion. Now, my second question is, how popular is this game? Because if the Illuminati was going to, pre-program people or whatever, wouldn't they choose like a medium that was more prevalent? Or perhaps they would choose something that was super low stakes just to like test public opinion on it?
It's a great question. And when we get into the theories, I really want to like dive into it. But to answer the first part of your question, which is how popular was this game, it actually was pretty popular. And I keep mentioning that this is pre-internet era. I mean, again, the game continued into the internet era and it released subsequent expansion packs. But when it started, this was very much word of mouth, grassroots movements. SJG was having booths set up at gaming conventions, putting ads in comic books. I mean, think of how niche that is. Yes, the 80s were definitely a time for sci-fi. So I don't want to like diminish that there was definitely a fandom to be tapped into, because there was. But it's impressive how popular the game became in a pre-internet era, basically.
Okay.
Like the popularity of desktop computers and homes was really not a thing in the early 80s. And he was developing this game beginning in the 70s and then released it in 1982. So yeah, super impressive. We're gonna go into some like crazy shit that happened once we get past these cards that I want to talk to you about, but I don't want to give it away yet. Basically, this guy made like $2 million by the time it was the mid 90s, which was a lot of fucking money. Yeah.
Yeah. Back then, that might as well, that's probably like 20 million today, right?
It's impressive, for sure.
Yeah.
This guy was smart. So let me send you
That's
the next
crazy.
two cards.
I wonder if like Osama bin Laden knew about this game and was like playing it with like other terrorists. And we're like, ooh, that's actually a really good idea.
It's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg, I guess? Could someone have seen it and been like, that's a good idea? Who's to say?
Okay, this is weird. It says combined disasters card, and it's like people walking away from what looks like a clock clock tower falling into a big fire. It says, you may combine 2 disasters on the same place as long as both are eligible to be used on it. Play both of the disaster cards as well. Pick one disaster to be the main one and follow all of the instructions on its card. Add the power, but none of the other effects of the other disaster. Okay, and the next one, this is what? It says epidemic, and then it has a picture of like a Red Cross with like vaccines and like some sort of clear liquid. Looks very medical. Oh my God. A face mask, like a COVID mask, and gloves, and then it says quarantine on it. And I can't tell what, it's either like billowing black smoke in the background, or it's like some sort of greenery, like farm
or airborne contagion.
Oh, okay. I guess it could be that. Okay, and it says, disaster. This is an attack to destroy any place. It does not require an action. Its power is 14. This is not an instant attack. Other groups can interfere normally. If the attack succeeds, the target is devastated. This attack cannot actually destroy the target. Okay.
All right. So,
I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know, it's super crazy. So the combined disasters card that you described to the audience first shows a chaotic street scene where a panicked crowd flees from a collapsing clock tower, which is crumbling as explosions erupt around it. The clock's hands are set to 1111, a detail many theorists point to as symbolic, connecting it to numerology and occult rituals. Years later, this card was widely shared online following real-world catastrophes, most notably the 2011 earthquake and tsunami in Japan, which caused widespread destruction, and the Fukushima nuclear disaster. Conspiracy theorists claim the card predicted not only this event, but also other large-scale urban tragedies, arguing that the combined disasters represent multiple catastrophic forces striking at once, just like a natural disaster triggering a nuclear meltdown. They view the card's name and imagery as warning that certain world events are orchestrated rather than accidental, and that chaos on a massive scale is deliberately engineered by powerful elites. The numbers on the clock, the panicked crowd, and the collapsing building are all seen as intentional symbols hinting at these plans. And the reason why the Fukushima disaster and 2011 earthquake and tsunami were kind of picked out is because the clock says 1111 and this disaster happened in 2011. And 11, I guess, is like a very powerful number for people that believe in the Illuminati conspiracy. Very important in numerology, supposedly.
And so is 13, and the deck has 113 cards. So it's
yeah,
like
which is 11
13.
and 13, exactly. Yeah.
Also, Taylor Swift, Illuminati confirmed. Okay, guys, we don't have time to explain it. Go back and listen to that episode and then corroborate your evidence with this episode. Okay, I'm locked in. I'm super down for wherever this is going. I need more. Keep going.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so just really quickly, we've never done an episode on numerology before, so I'm not going to go super into it because that could be an entire 2-hour episode. But I guess the idea is that 11 is considered a master number. And so the Illuminati, which is like the master group of people that control everything, are intertwined with number 11 for whatever reason. Moving on to the second card I had you describe to the audience. When the COVID-19 pandemic swept across the globe in 2020, images of this card went viral on social media. Conspiracy theorists argued that the card predicted not only a massive outbreak, but also the coordinated governmental responses, quarantines, lockdowns, and restrictions that followed. According to these theorists, the card is proof that global pandemics are not random acts of nature, but carefully planned tools used by hidden powers to reshape society, control populations, and advance a quote-unquote new world order.
That's crazy. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Okay, so then if you believe in that conspiracy, then does that mean that the Spanish flu from like World War I was also part of the New World Order? Or going back even further, like the bubonic plague, was that part of the New World Order? Like, that's insane.
I mean, it's hard to get into the mind of a true Illuminati conspiracy theorist. I would love to talk to someone sometime that really like takes the pill and swallows it down and is like, yes, my whole life, I live, breathe, eat, sleep, the Illuminati conspiracy. I would love to. But In my research, what I was finding is the skeptics point to the Spanish influenza as being like, no, of course he would mention pandemic in his card game about controlling the government and the population because it's something that we've seen time and time again in so many examples throughout history. So it's not so much that he predicted COVID-19 as he was looking back at the past and knowing that history always repeats itself, choosing these tantalizing things that have occurred throughout world history and like inserting them into his game. So I don't know. I only saw the 1800s Spanish flu pandemic as being a point towards skepticism, but I don't know because I don't know anyone that's like a full-blown Illuminati conspiracy theorist. So maybe they view the bubonic plague was the elites controlling fleas on rats or something, like contaminating rats, or maybe, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. How deep do we want to go? But before we go too deep, because it's so easy to spin out, I'm going to show you two more cards, the next two most popular cards, and I would like you to describe them to the audience.
Whenever I hear Illuminati conspiracy, I usually hear it like as, oh, the ancient mystery schools, like we're talking about like ancient Egypt, maybe even like ancient Rome, ancient Greece, and then it's like nil until like, 1700, 1776 or whatever, when they founded America, and then Beyonce and Jay-Z are Illuminati. But there's like a lot of gaps in there. So it would be interesting if someone could also connect like, and during the Middle Ages, the Knights at the Round Table all had a pyramid with one eye, Okay. Oh, interesting. Is this supposed to be Donald Trump? It says charismatic leader. And it has a man from behind with his arms spread like he's, giving a very enigmatic speech to a bunch of people who look enraptured in the crowd. And he has yellow hair and orange skin, guys. Is it orange or is it
it's orange,
like a lighting choice?
Yeah.
No, it's for sure orange, but it's like the people are also yellow. So it's like,
right.
Okay. It says this card may be played at any time and counts as the action for the group it affects. The increased power takes effect immediately. The power for one fanatic group is increased to 6. Link this card to your chosen fanatic group. No player may have more than one charismatic leader in play. Oh my God. It's like a rule book on how to take over the world. That's crazy.
So the charismatic leader card kind of flew under the radar for many, many years. And while it may seem harmless at first, it has become one of the most politically charged cards in the deck. The illustration shows a powerful figure standing at a podium before a massive cheering crowd, hands raised triumphantly in the air as a sea of people look on in adoration. The leader is bathed in dramatic lighting, their features intentionally vague so the figure could represent anyone, past, present, or future. But following the rise of Donald Trump in American politics and his shocking victory in the 2016 presidential election, conspiracy theorists began to revisit the card with new eyes. Many point to its imagery and title as proof that the game had foreknowledge of a polarizing, media-savvy figure with blonde hair and orange skin who would emerge to rally a massive following and shift the global balance of power. Believers argue that Trump fits the archetype of a charismatic leader almost too perfectly. A political outsider who gained influence through his personality, rhetoric, and ability to command intense loyalty from his followers. To conspiracy theorists, this card is a warning about how manipulative leaders are groomed and elevated by shadowy organizations to create chaos and further the goals of a hidden elite agenda. In their view, Trump's rise to power was not an accident or purely the result of democratic processes. Instead, they see it as a carefully orchestrated event foreseen decades earlier, symbolically immortalized in this game as a way for the Illuminati to signal their control to those who are quote-unquote in the know.
Interesting. I often, when I hear people talking about like shadow organizations or whatever, I feel like a lot of people who believe in the Illuminati are pro-Trump. Like they think like, oh, he's dismantling the bureaucracy that's actually
draining the
funded.
swamp.
Yeah, draining the swamp, whatever. But in my family, I have some flat earthers, guys. I have some flat earthers in the family. And let me tell you, I was very surprised because we're talking about people who live in Texas. A lot of them already, you would assume maybe were probably more Republican anyways. But I was very surprised when I was talking to them that they were anti-Trump, and they were like, no, he's a puppet, a shadow puppet. And so maybe this is what they were talking about. I didn't really like press further because it was Thanksgiving and I didn't want to like open up that can of worms, you know? Interesting. Like usually the Thanksgiving political conversation is just very surface level, like, do you like Trump or not? But in my family, it's like, do you think Trump is a shadow puppet of the fucking Illuminati because the earth is flat? So yeah.
Love it. I love it. When extended family gets together, shit gets interesting, I will say. However, if you think this card is kind of mind-blowing with its yellow hair and orange skin, I'm about to show you the next card that honestly is like, I don't know, it's like the meme of the 1,000-yard stare where the soldier is like staring into the camera and there's an explosion going off behind him. Like this one is honestly very good. So I'm going to send it to you now, and I'm actually going to send you a Reddit link. If you can read the title of the Reddit link and kind of explain what it is before we press play.
Sure. It says, Illuminati Card Game strikes again in r/unexplained by user JohnnyFlash69.
Perfect. And then go ahead and hit play and we'll just watch it together.
Card on the left, charismatic leader. It looks like Donald Trump, right? This is Donald Trump. Now the one on the right, I've been seeing forever and thinking, man, that also really looks like Donald Trump. And it's called Enough is Enough. Let's look deeper at the Enough is Enough cards. Here's the picture of Trump pumping his fist at the rally, overlaid with the card, and it matches perfectly. And then below that, the first sentence is, at any time, at any place, our snipers can drop you. Have a nice day. If this isn't being pulled out of demonic prophecy or the Akashic records, then nothing is.
You can't set something like that up.
This is the card game that predicted 9/11 and the Pentagon getting hit by a plane. Like, there's something supernatural going on here.
Today's episode is sponsored by NUTRAFOL. And if you're like me and you were at one time, perhaps even right now, researching how to get longer, stronger, shinier, healthier looking hair, then you're going to want to listen up. Because not only is NUTRAFOL a sponsor of this week's episode, but I also use their products. Specifically, I use their women's vegan formula. Every night I make a protein shake with all of the essential nutrients and minerals that I'm missing out on in my day, and I add to it 2 capsules of NUTRAFOL's women's vegan formula. You can just swallow them whole, but I'm kind of a pussy and I don't like taking pills. I think it's because I take so many pills. I'm an adult. Anyway, let me just show you my hair. Let my hair do the talking for me. It's pretty long, and I do attribute this to NUTRAFOL. So thank you so much, NUTRAFOL, for helping me love my hair again, because there was a time where I was very adversarial with my hair, and I hope to never go back there. NUTRAFOL is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. And you can feel great about what you're putting in your body because NUTRAFOL's hair growth supplements are backed by peer-reviewed studies and NSF Content Certified, which is the gold standard in third-party certification for supplements. So what are you waiting for? See thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with NUTRAFOL. For a limited time, NUTRAFOL's offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to NUTRAFOL.com and enter promo code HAUNTED. Find out why NUTRAFOL is the best-selling hair growth supplement brand at NUTRAFOL.com, spelled NUTRAFOL.com, promo code HAUNTED, HAUNTED, HAUNTED. It's just one haunted, all caps, haunted. Please enter it at checkout so they know that we sent you. That's NUTRAFOL.com, promo code HAUNTED. Thanks, NUTRAFOL, for sponsoring this week's episode.
Oh my God, I literally had tears. Look at my eyes, guys. I literally have tears come to my eyes. You know, I fucking love this shit. I live for this shit. Oh my God, thank you. Thank you, Aly. Thank you for showing me this. Wow. Okay, so I have another 6 months of excitement to live off of and hyperfixate on. All right, let's see. That's fucking insane, guys. I guarantee you will fucking shit your pants when you see this Enough is Enough card overlaid on Donald Trump's face. Like,
It's pretty
what
wild.
The fuck?
I know. So can you read the Enough is Enough card out loud to the audience and describe what it looks like?
It says enough is enough, and then it has a picture of, I mean, without the Donald Trump context, it kind of just looks like a very angry, almost like demonic face. Like it's like a purple skinned thing, and the teeth are sharp and yellow, and the eyes are green. It's very abstract. The background is like all of these like kind of like tie-dye weird colors. I mean, almost, if you wanted to be full conspiracy theorist, it kind of looks like the spike protein from the fucking COVID. And then there's like all these triangles and shit. I mean, it looks nefarious. It doesn't look like something you would present to someone on their birthday. Like, I signed you a card with this cover art. No way. This is weird as fuck. It says, at any time, at any place, our snipers can drop you. Have a nice day. Play this card on your own turn before drawing any plots. You may remove all zap, paralysis, or attribute freeze cards that are affecting your power structure. However, preoccupied with your house cleaning, you may draw no plots this turn. That's crazy because all of the other cards you showed me, none of them had this like little italic sentence at the top that's like, at any time, at any place, our snipers can drop you. Have a nice day. Like, they all were just directions about how to play the card.
Right.
That's very interesting.
Let me take this one level deeper. So to really drive this one home to our audience, this card gained popularity on September 15th, 2024, when Donald Trump, who was then the former president of the United States and nominee of the Republican Party in the 2024 presidential election, was the target of an assassination attempt. So the still frame of Donald Trump after surviving his assassination attempt and pumping his fist into the air, if you overlay it on this card from 1995, because this is from the 1995 expansion pack, it's literally a dead ringer, no pun intended. And the card is talking about assassination attempts. Like, at any time, we can assassinate your charismatic leader. And then if you overlay it, it's the same fucking thing. So conspiracy theorists who believe that this card game is some sort of tool that's being used by the Illuminati, or depending on what you believe, it could also be used by people that are in the know but are actively trying to resist the Illuminati and let the public know what's going on. People who believe in that say this is just proof that no assassination is accidental, that this was all orchestrated to get Trump in power by pretending that there was going to be an assassination attempt. Or people that are on the other side are like, no, this was proof that the Illuminati were trying to assassinate Trump, but he survived. Or this was proof that the Illuminati was trying to let Trump know, hey, at any moment, at any time, we can assassinate you if we want, so you better play by our rules.
That's insane. What those people in the video were saying too is like, oh, this is proof of the Akashic records, or like proof of like demonic entities or sacrifices being true or something, which I find extremely creepy. And so I'm on the edge of my seat. That's crazy. I'm so interested by like conspiracies, you know, that are like demonic, like some people are demonic or not, because I just wonder, like, who's a demon? Like, you know, and there's this movie that just came out, K-pop Demon Hunters. I feel like demons, it's such a part of the pop culture zeitgeist, and, you know, zooming out, you could like have a whole philosophical conversation about how like demons are, you know, it's just a metaphor for vices or for whatever, or people who don't fit in society's mold or something. But we're not doing that. I'm saying like literally like demons, like bitches with tails and pitchforks and shit that are like, you know, eat human souls. Like, that would be crazy. If that would be the most haunted outcome, if demons were real in the colloquial sense, not the artistic abstract sense, but like a demon is real and they have like occult powers, like they can control the future and the past or whatever, and we all are just like on this path that we can't really control, and some people have powers where they can, like, you know, manipulate time and space, and they're making these card games to try to communicate with us, to try to help us.
It's a fun one. Like, that one for sure got my gears turning, because the other ones, yeah, you can kind of explain them away, I guess. I mean, I don't really know how you can explain away the Twin Towers literally fucking having like an explosion in the middle that looks just like 9/11. But that one for sure, the Enough is Enough card, I feel like because it's recent enough, that event was recent enough, it like really drove the whole conspiracy theory home for me and got me excited about it. So as you pointed out, there is a tie-in here with the Akashic records, which again, we don't have enough time to go into during this episode because that could be like a 17-hour episode. But just as like a brief aside for people that are like, Akashic records, why did you mention it and you're not explaining it? It's a theoretical cosmic library and esoteric traditions that stores the complete history of every soul, including every single thought, experience, and emotion as a vibrational record within non-physical Akasha. Maybe in a future episode we will cover the Akashic records, but for now we have to move on because I have more cards to show you. Okay, last two cards. Let me show you.
I wonder if we got like I don't know, a picture of a different, like, quote unquote charismatic leader and overlaid that on top, if it would match up. Like, I wonder if there's a picture of like Adolf Hitler giving a speech or something. And if we overlaid that, what it would look like.
Yeah, the thing that makes people like really be like the charismatic leaders for sure, Donald Trump, is the coloring. But as you pointed out, it could just be a stylistic choice because maybe it's like the sun shining on the people that's making the hair appear yellow and the skin appear orange.
Okay, this one says martial law, and it's the White House with a chain link fence in front of it and like military soldiers standing in front of it with guns. And it says, play this card at any time to give plus 10 power or resistance to any government group you control. If used with an action, it must be played when that action is first declared and counts only for that action. If used for defense, the bonus lasts until the end of the current turn. It's good for defense only and does not count towards goals. Yeah, I mean, that one to me is like less haunted than the other ones because it's like
Vague.
Yeah. Like it needs to be like martial law with like a calendar behind it that says like what date, or like martial law with like, I don't know, protesters in front protesting something that's relevant to us, you know?
Right. No, totally. I agree. This one's a little bit more vague, but I'll describe it to our listeners anyway, because this is one of the ones that conspiracy theorists point to as being proof that the Illuminati card deck is prophetic. The martial law card is another one of the most ominous cards in the deck due to its direct connection to governmental control and societal collapse. The illustration depicts armed military forces patrolling the streets. The title itself, martial law, immediately evokes images of government takeover, mass panic, and the suspension of ordinary freedoms. For conspiracy theorists, this card is a blueprint for totalitarian control. They believe it predicted the increased militarization of police forces and the use of military power to suppress dissent. During real-world events like nationwide protests, pandemic lockdowns, or other examples of civil unrest in recent history, this card often resurfaces online with believers claiming that what they see happening in their cities mirrors the images from this card. In particular, conspiracy forums erupted during the COVID-19 pandemic with images of armed troops assisting with lockdown enforcement appearing side by side with this card's art. According to these theories, the martial law card is a sign of deliberate planning by a hidden elite organization. Believers argue that mass uprisings, disasters, and public fear are engineered events designed to create chaos, giving governments the excuse to declare martial law and strip away civil liberties. So, examples more recently might be ICE raids or different federal agencies entering different cities to cut down on protesters, or Antifa protests. That's very recent. And so this card just keeps coming up over and over again. So that's why I wanted to point it out. But as you said, it's just vague enough that really you could apply it to anything. We've always had protests, right? Throughout the history of the United States, at least, and many, many other countries. But this is an American card game, which is why I'm pointing out the US. We've always had protests and pickets. It's like a big part of free speech. But conspiracy theorists say that in recent years, there's been a bigger crackdown on those free speech protests that we've taken for granted by way of, no, you can't protest because there's a pandemic, or no, you can't protest because you're part of a terrorist organization, domestic terrorism, which is more recent. Now, let me show you the last one.
This is very scary, whatever this means. Oh my God. It says tape runs out, ... And it's a picture of the world, like planet Earth, splitting in half with what looks like, you know, either the sun or like plasma, like or explosion coming out of it. And then it has like a tape with film like that's run out. And it says, when the rapture comes, I'll make them wait. They'll never clean my cage. Now give me some more of ... And then in parentheses, tape runs out. It says, good try. Too bad something went wrong. This card may be played immediately after any other plot is played for any purpose. That card is canceled. Both cards are discarded. Use of this card requires either an action from your Illuminati or 3 other plot discards. This is giving me such heebie-jeebies right now. Like this, I feel like we just like discovered fucking Jumanji. You know when those like kids discover it and it's like like the fucking drums, and you're like, no, don't unmarry it. Fuck, it's gonna fuck your life up. Like, don't do it. Like I feel like what I feel that same amount of suspense right now. What does that mean, the tape runs out? And who's in a cage? Like, I don't get it.
Well, let me read to you what my research turned up about this card, because it is definitely one of the creepiest cards. And it's less straightforward than the cards that I previously showed you, like terrorist nuke or martial law. This one is more ambiguous, and people on Reddit and other message boards talk about this card all the time. Now, what makes it have kind of a resurgence recently is there was this whole movement online about how the rapture was happening. This literally just happened a few weeks ago. And so people were bringing this card up and saying, oh my God, it's finally going to happen. The tape is going to run out. We're all going to be raptured. The world is going to end. So this illustration shows fragmented symbols, broken machinery, and the suggestion of something vital coming to a sudden stop. The phrase tape runs out evokes the end of a recording, a countdown hitting 0, or even the malfunction of a simulation, leaving players to wonder if the game is referencing a final collapse on reality itself. Conspiracy theorists interpret this card as a chilling sign of a global reset event. In their view, tape represents the narrative that society operates under, the systems, histories, and institutions that keep the world running smoothly. When the tape runs out, everything falls apart. Governments lose control, economies crumble, and the truth about who really controls the world is finally revealed. This interpretation has gained traction in online forums and social media, where theorists link it to everything from computerized surveillance systems crashing, to mass internet outages, to the belief that we're living inside a simulated reality that is nearing its programmed end. In recent years, believers have pointed to widespread technical failures, mysterious global blackouts, and sudden collapses of financial or political systems as evidence that the tape is indeed running out. So this card also is a favorite amongst Project Bluebeam conspiracy theorists, which again, we don't have time to go into, guys. All of these are their own subtopics for sure. We have briefly touched on Project Bluebeam before, but as the United States starts to have more and more UFO hearings or UAP hearings, people that believe in Project Bluebeam say there are no aliens. The government is taking advantage of this growing interest in UFOs and aliens to stage an alien invasion to develop the quote-unquote New World Order. So people say, look, this is evidence. The tape is running out. We're coming up to a cultural reset here, a governmental reset where all of the world governments or the shadowy Illuminati that exist behind the scenes of every government, every powerful government around the world, are plotting to say, hey guys, here's our alien overlords. They're coming to take over. They're the ones who are really in charge. They created us. And now we have no choice but to enter this new world order where the aliens are in charge. But really, the aliens are just the Illuminati, for example. Other people who believe in simulation theory say, no, this is proof that our simulation is nearing its end. This was developed by the devs of our universe. And at some point, the game becomes obsolete as new editions of games get developed or something more interesting gets developed. And we're nearing the point where the game is going to no longer be compatible. Like the software is going to be obsolete, the hardware is going to be obsolete, and everything just ends. Other people who are religious say, no, this is proof of an incoming rapture and how everything has seemed so strange and bad lately. And it's proof that society itself is collapsing. There's so much infighting. We've turned our back on higher powers, whatever you think a higher power is. And now it's time for that higher power to step in and just end this grand experiment that we've all been under.
I don't know what I'm supposed to say to that. Cool, bro. Like, oh no, I'm scared. Like, I don't know. This is crazy to me and extremely alarming. That just like image that was on the card of the world literally exploding and then like a tape running out of tape is just like the most unsettling thing I could possibly think of, you know? First of all, I hate the idea of space. It scares me. It's like too vast, and it's, what do you mean there's just nothing? Like, it feels like claustrophobic, but like the inverse of claustrophobia, like it's so big that like you feel like you're suffocating and small. And just the image of like, why am I away from the world? Why am I seeing that? That's not good. That means I'm in space. Like I need to be on the earth as it's splitting in half.
It's definitely makes me feel that weird pit in your stomach you get when you think about death in general, or I don't know if other people have this problem, but if I think about it for too long, I get this like horrible feeling in my stomach because of course, like it's terrifying and nobody knows what happens afterwards. cards, and just the idea, of the world exploding and a tape running out. Oh, it like gives me that same creep factor for sure. These are the most popular cards that people discuss when it comes to the conspiracy theory, but I just sent you a link to pictures of all the cards in the 1994 expansion pack, and I'm just wondering if you want to click on that link and you just want to scroll and see if you find anything that catches your eye. Maybe before we move on, we can just like look at a couple more of them.
Yeah, this is crazy. This game actually looks like really fun. There's all these little pyramids that you put on top of games. And okay, if you want to get really haunted, because they were talking about like demonic whatever in that one video, the layout that these cards are in looks like very reminiscent of like certain like tarot organization, like when you want to do like a certain reading. And so then that's even crazier, because what if whoever made this knew about the tarot like setup and then was like, oh, like every time you play you're like tarot cards and you're predicting I'm gonna cry. So scary. This one says Midas Mill, and it looks like a weird underwater submarine that's like leaking gold, but I can't see what the rest of it says. This one says California, and it like has two blonde people doing something, but I can't tell what they're doing because there's a little pyramid sticking on top of them. Okay, I'm going through the images. What else can I find here? This one says there's a German edition, Power Corrupts, and then it's just like like a old white guy with a bald head smoking a pipe with a bunch of dollar bills in front of him, and then like a blonde busty lady sitting next to him with her tits kind of like pushed up. This one says Loan Sharks, and it has like a super angry guy holding another guy. Looks like he's gonna punch him, and there's like dollar bills flying everywhere. This one says Gun Lobby, and it has a gun shooting dollar bills out. This one says Good Polls, and it has a woman wearing an American flag shirt, like with graphs going up behind her, and she looks happy. This one says Bill Clinton. This one's Hillary Clinton. Oh, but when you put the Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton cards together, it's Bill Clinton, and he has a leash around his neck, and Hillary Clinton is pulling it, and the other one. This shit is so provocative, this game.
It's very provocative. I just sent you two other pictures if you want to describe them.
We're not going to go super in-depth. This one says fashion designers, and it has like someone like standing on a runway with like a bunch of like sparkly stuff coming out of their stomach. Sort of looks like if a runway model was like a disco ball or something. And it says the power of each of your weird groups is increased by 1, except for your weird personalities, which are increased by 2. The fashion designers have an extra +6 for direct control of a media personality, or +4 for direct control of any other personality. That's crazy. And then Aly texted me, Balenciaga, with 3 question marks underneath it. I'm scared for my life right now.
So okay. The Balenciaga, for those of you who are new to our show, definitely go back and listen to our episode last year on the Balenciaga conspiracy. The reason why I pointed this one out is just because we've covered it before. And then I sent you one last one.
This one says Large Hadron Collider. And it says, yeah. Higgs boson, God particle, blah, blah, blah. So what is it really for? And then it says, by spending the LHC's action token, you may look at the top card of either of your group's pile or your plot's pile. You may then choose to place it back on top or the bottom of the pile it came from. If you control both France and Switzerland, the LRC gets 2 action tokens. Oh my God. You guys have to go listen to our episode on Goddard Tunnel. It looks like Gotthard Tunnel, because we talk about the Large Hadron Collider, and I'm unwell right now. This is not good for me to know this information exists.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Did you guys know that October 10th was World Mental Health Day? Well, this year, BetterHelp is shining a spotlight on therapists, the people who truly make our world a better place. Having the right therapist can really change everything for you. And BetterHelp has over 12 years of experience matching people to the right therapist. BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the U.S. BetterHelp does the initial matching work for you so you can focus on your therapy goals. A short questionnaire helps identify your needs and preferences, and BetterHelp's 10+ plus years of experience and industry-leading match fulfillment rate means they typically get it right the first time. But if you are matched with a therapist that you don't vibe with, the good news with online therapy is there's no awkward breakup conversation, which is something I personally dread every time I've ever had to leave a therapist in the dust. Instead, you can just not book them again and get matched with another therapist. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. And it works, with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session based on over 1.7 million client reviews. And honestly, BetterHelp, I'm really jealous because LGH has a 4.8 on Spotify and I think like a 4.7 or 4.6 on Apple Podcasts. So BetterHelp's doing better than us. Which makes sense, because they're actually providing a service that matters, but I am still jealous and bitter. This World Mental Health Day, we're celebrating the therapists who have helped millions of people take a step forward. If you're ready to find the right therapist for you, BetterHelp can help you start that journey. And our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/gethaunted. That's BetterHelp, spelled BETTERHELP.com/gethaunted. Thanks, BetterHelp, for sponsoring this week's episode.
Exists.
Well, we're about to get a step past unwell. We're about to become completely deceased because it's time for part 3, the raid. Up until now, we've been talking about cards, pieces of cardboard with creepy drawings and tongue-in-cheek text. But this is where the story takes a hard turn from satire into reality. In March of 1990, nearly a decade after the Illuminati card game first became available to the public, Steve Jackson Games found itself at the center of its own conspiracy when its headquarters was raided by the United States Secret Service.
What?
Agents stormed SJG's Austin, Texas offices, seizing computers, hard drives, and draft files for upcoming games.
This just makes it seem like, yeah, there is some truth to all this, or like they had insider knowledge or something because, or, okay, wait. Are they going to say that this is a terrorist group, like that made these cards? Like, how are they going to spin this to make that seem normal? You can't raid an office of people who are making a fucking card game. What were they doing?
Well, I'll tell you what the excuse was, and there was a lawsuit associated with it. I'm going to info dump on you right now, and then let's debrief. So, at the time, the agency that handled hacking and cybercrime was the Secret Service. And their involvement with SJG started when AT&T, which operated the 911 emergency network, reported a security breach in their system. A confidential manual about the 911 system, essentially a guide on how the network operated, had been stolen and leaked onto early computer bulletin board systems, which were like online forums back in the day. This was a huge problem because in the wrong hands, that information could have been used to shut down the emergency system services or to disrupt communication networks across entire cities. The Secret Service launched an investigation and traced the leak back to Austin, Texas. Their search led them to a well-known hacker collective called the Legion of Doom, one of the most infamous groups of early computer intruders. One of its members, Lloyd Blankenship, just so happened to work for Steve Jackson Games. Blankenship operated a message board called Illuminati out of the company's office, a coincidence that, in hindsight, seems almost too bizarre to believe. Agents became convinced that this small game publisher was somehow involved in the hacking ring, or, at the very least, was storing stolen files on its computer systems. Acting on this theory, they obtained a search warrant, but the warrant was extremely broad and poorly written. It didn't clearly state what evidence they were looking for or even distinguish between Blankenship's personal files and the company's business records. On March 1st, 1990, the raid went down. The Secret Service swept through SJG's offices and Blankenship's home, confiscating 3 company computers, more than 300 floppy disks, printers, and other equipment. Among the files taken was a nearly finished manuscript for a new game called GURPS Cyberpunk, which the agents infamously referred to as, quote, a handbook for computer crime. To Steve Jackson and his team, this accusation was absurd. It was just a role-playing game about futuristic hackers and cyber espionage, not an actual how-to guide for real-world criminals. Nevertheless, the raid was devastating. For months, SJG couldn't access any of their files, they couldn't communicate with their fan base, and they couldn't meet their publishing deadlines. The company's finances were stretched to the breaking point, and Steve Jackson later admitted that they were close to going under completely. Even worse, despite the dramatic show of force, no one at Steve Jackson Games was ever charged with a crime. The supposedly dangerous AT&T 911 document turned out to be a fairly mundane internal memo, and nothing found on SJG's machines connected the company directly to the hack. This left many people wondering, if there was no solid evidence of a crime, why had the Secret Service come down so hard on a tiny, niche game publisher? For conspiracy theorists, the answer was obvious. The raid wasn't really about hacking at all. It was all a cover-up. In their view, the government had learned that Illuminati, the card game about secret societies, contained material that hit way too close to the truth. The raid was about confiscating sensitive files and intimidating the creators into silence. The fact that the company's online message board was literally named Illuminati only added to the legend. But skeptics argue that the raid was part of a much larger national crackdown on computer crime in general, known as Operation Sun Devil, which swept up hackers and digital activists across the country. However, to this day, Illuminati fans and conspiracy believers point to the image of Secret Service agents hauling away SJG's computers as the moment when the line between parody and reality blurred. A game about shadowy global cabals had seemingly provoked a response from the very forces it satirized, giving fuel to the theory that maybe, just maybe, Steve Jackson had stumbled onto something he was never meant to reveal. Following the raid, Steve Jackson Games was left on the brink of collapse with no charges filed, but their files and computers still locked up by the government. Determined to fight back, Jackson teamed up with the newly formed Electronic Frontier Foundation and sued the U.S. Secret Service in a groundbreaking case, Steve Jackson Games Inc. versus United States Secret Service. In 1993, a federal judge ruled that the agents had overstepped their authority, violating both the First Amendment and the Privacy Protection Act by seizing unpublished creative materials and shutting down SJG's operations without a clear warrant. SJG was awarded $50,000 in damages plus legal fees, making the case one of the first major legal victories for digital privacy and free speech. Though, for conspiracy theorists, it was just further proof that the raid had all been a front and was more about silencing dangerous truths than stopping hackers.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, oh my God. Okay, so here's my thought. I am scared of the government because they can do that. Look, when I spent, this long story we're not going into, when I spent a little bit of time behind bars, I remember thinking, like, this is crazy. If they decide they don't like you, they can put you away. Even if they don't charge you with something, they can just take your bail away. So you're in jail for however long, waiting for trial to happen, waiting for something else to happen, whatever. And I went to this thing this weekend and I met this girl and we became friends, and she was telling me about her dad or something was in prison, and I, it was kind of an interesting story. It kind of leaked, I was asking her a bunch of questions. She was like, basically what happened is my dad was being sued by the United States government. Right after 9/11, he was working in technology, and I guess they're like Iranian, and the US government accused her dad of like cyber espionage because he was like working at a technology company. And so then he fled the country because he was like terrified of like what's going to happen, because everyone was so, turned up after 9/11 and racist and essentially just wanting to put people wherever they could, like behind bars. So he fled the country, I guess, and then was picked up several years later after everything had passed over, or he thought, because I guess he was like on an Interpol list.
Oh, wow.
And in Sweden or something, and now is like in a crazy federal prison, like awaiting some epic trial. Yeah, and it's not my story, so I'm not going to give all the details of it, but I remember hearing that story and thinking it was crazy because this was just like seemed to be a normal guy, normal guy, like with a family and like a business and all of that. And it's reminding me of this card game Steve dude, But the other side of that is like, if you were a fucking spy, like, would you be like, oh yeah, actually I'm a spy, like, and I'm responsible for 9/11? No, you would be like, no, I'm not. If you were actually like had secret access to government files on your computer and you also had a game called Illuminati, would you use that as your defense and be like, well, actually, I don't have secret files. That was just like me making up the wildest shit I could, and I guess it hit too close to home, you know?
Yeah, and there's definitely levels to like the direction we can take the conspiracy theory in, because this episode, obviously, from the title you guys can tell, this episode is specifically geared towards the conspiracy theories. And there's tons of them, right? Because it could just be, oh, by accident, this guy stumbled across or thought he was making a funny parody. But clearly, yeah, like you said, it hit too close to home, because now, next thing you know, Secret Service is taking away all his computers and ruining his business and his life. Or you could say, no, he was part of the secret society, but then decided to come out against it. Or no, he's actually part of the secret society and the Secret Service is the good guys in this situation, right? Like, it just depends on which direction you want to go in. But this brings us to part 4, the theories. Theory number 1, pure coincidence and satire. The most skeptical explanation is that there's nothing mysterious about the Illuminati cards at all. Steve Jackson designed the game as satire, poking fun at every wild conspiracy theory floating around in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. With over 100 cards covering everything from government plot to alien abductions, it was almost inevitable that some of them would later resemble real-world events, especially since the same themes recur in conspiracy culture over and over. According to this theory, the cards are simply a Rorschach test of sorts. People see connections because they're looking for them, not because any real predictions were made. What do you think of that?
The fucking Twin Towers exploding and the Pentagon on fire. I mean, okay, I guess the skeptic perspective, whatever. You could say, oh, they chose to make the charismatic leader yellow and orange because they didn't want to make them, you know, dark-skinned because that would be like too racist, I guess.
That's
and they
a good
didn't
point.
want to they didn't want to make them light-skinned with dark hair because then that would be too much like Adolf Hitler or too much like, you know, someone else who existed. So they chose a color combination. They're like, no one could ever be orange with blonde hair. But little did they know, right? And also, okay, the one, I don't think the martial law one seems that crazy. It seems like just a depiction of martial law, right? Which is like something that already exists in our laws as like something that could happen. It's the same thing as having a picture of, I don't know, like, what's something else that could happen?
A slice of cake, and you're like, well, cake already exists, bro.
Right,
like,
yes.
This is a literal food that's existed for thousands of years.
Yeah, there's nothing that seems like predictive about it at all. But the other ones, the fucking tape runs out. What the hell, dude? And the Twin Towers exploding. I mean, that... I guess you could just say that they were like a symbol of American commerce or business or something, and maybe that's why even the terrorists chose to destroy them in 9/11. You know, they were just like so iconic when you think of America, but seems weird. And the Pentagon, maybe, yeah, it's so iconic. I don't know, because, okay, so I was born, well, I'm not going to give you the year I was born because then you guys can like use it to steal my identity, says my mom. I was born in the early 90s, so I was very young when 9/11 happened, but I remember that was like the first time I ever heard of the Pentagon. Like, they're like, and the Pentagon had been attacked, and I was like, the what? We have a place shaped like a pentagon called the Pentagon. That's so stupid. That's what my first thought was. And so, I don't know, maybe it was a big deal before that. You guys chime in if the Pentagon was relevant before 9/11, because for me, it was not. So that's weird that they had that.
It's definitely like a point towards the skeptic theory, because skeptics also point out, like, look, the only reason why this is a big deal is because now we have a new generation of people that grew up with some tragedies that they can then relate to these cards.
Mm-hmm.
But let's move forward, because these theories are in order from most skeptic to least skeptic. So theory number 2, inside knowledge. More suspicious minds believe Steve Jackson or someone in his orbit had access to insider information about planned events and encoded it into the game. According to this theory, the uncanny accuracy of certain cards, particularly the 9/11 related ones, is not a lucky guess, but a deliberate leak. Proponents argue that Jackson's interest in secret societies and his run-ins with the government weren't coincidental, but signs that he had stumbled into a network of real conspirators. To believers, the Illuminati isn't a parody. It's a subtle disclosure from someone on the inside using satire as a convenient excuse to reveal hidden truths.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we're at, right? Like,
so that's probably like the least unhinged of the believer theories. Let's go a little bit more unhinged. Theory number 3, predictive programming. A third theory leans into the concept of predictive programming, the idea that the elites plant images of future events into pop culture to psychologically condition the public. Under this theory, the Illuminati cards weren't designed to warn people or to mock conspiracies. They were designed to desensitize people to upcoming disasters. By presenting catastrophic events as jokes, games, or even memes, the public becomes less shocked when these events actually occur, making them easier to accept and digest, and less likely for the public to rebel against them. For believers in predictive programming, the game is part of a long-running psyop, not an innocent hobby product. What do you think of that one?
I mean, yeah, I could believe in that. I do think, I don't know if there's like, you know, a fucking department of psyops like in the government that are constantly like coming up with like, oh, okay, so let's fucking, you know, make a Marvel movie that shows this is happening and that is happening, and so that the people are ready for it. Like, I don't know if it's that organized, but I do feel like psyops exist.
Oh,
because
of course.
I feel like they exist even in your closest relationships, like in your own life, like not like zooming in. Like, think about like relationships you have like with your parents or with your boss or with coworkers or friends. Like, people are constantly, I feel like, trying to communicate with you in ways to get their own way, I guess. Like, I'm thinking specifically of a friend I have. She's been through a lot of trauma, and she has some substance abuse issues, and I recently like confronted her about it, you know, because I'm a good friend, and was basically like, hey, the people you hang out with, like, they kind of suck, and I don't think that they're good influence on you, you know? And I'm just, that's it. And that person was like, you know, really defensive, and then like bringing up all of these other counterpoints and all of this stuff, and, you know, attacking my own personal life. And I was like, that's fair. You know, you are you are allowed to have your own opinions about me and where I'm coming from. I'm just telling you, as someone who's known you for a very long time, and I've seen you struggle, and I know your past, your history, and your family history. You come from a long line of people who have issues with substances, and I just, you know, let's like look at the facts, like the last year of what's happened in your life, and basically telling this person like, I need to take a step back from this relationship as friends, so I'm unable to be as involved in your life right now because of XYZ reasons, right? And I just like, even like they were doing a psyop to me, right? Like, trying to not focus on the thing that I'm telling them, which is basically like, hey, I can't hang out with you anymore because your behavior is dangerous, right? They were like doing a psyop on me of like trying to change the conversation and whatever. And I don't know, I just feel like it's always like that. Like, you're interviewing for a fucking job. It's like the person behind the desk is giving you a psyop, right? Like, they don't just ask you, hey, do you want this job? Like, let me give it to you. Like, they play fucking weird mind games from you, like trying to like figure you out, you know? So I feel like it's not a stretch at all to think that like a governing body would be trying to control narratives and using psyops in order to do that.
Yeah, and in past episodes too, I'm thinking specifically of Pine Gap, which we covered earlier this year. So if you guys want to go dive more into some of these weird operations that our government has done over the years that we know existed, definitely go check that episode out. But we talked about like Operation Mockingbird, all of these different plans that the government or various branches of the government have affected over the years, have brought to fruition over the years to try to control public perception of certain things. Like, you know, and we can even go all the way back to like propaganda reels that were played before movies during World War I and World War II in the movie theater, so that people would be like, our country's doing great things. We need to support this war. We need to all be on the same page. Those are, you know, examples of psychological warfare. Now, I'm in the alien spaces online because I love aliens. If you know me, you know I love aliens. And a lot of people think that alien movies are predictive programming to get us used use to these ideas. Like Independence Day, for example, is one that gets brought up over and over again. E.T. gets brought up over and over again. So I think that if you're in those spaces, then yeah, that theory doesn't seem super far-fetched, because you're like, okay, building on stuff we already know to be true, which is, of course, a government wants its people to support it. That's how you get things done. Then, like, yeah, maybe they are, through various pop culture references or objects such as games, maybe, getting us ready for certain things. Now we're going into the most unhinged theory of them all. Theory number 4. The blueprint theory, aka Project Looking Glass. Nat, I'm gonna send you a Reddit screenshot to read out loud for this theory.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like another example. Okay, so here's a really good, easy one that has nothing to do with the government. When I was a kid, I wanted to wear a certain outfit on picture day, but my mom didn't want me to wear it. I was a jean jacket that I had got from my friend that I thought was the shit and had like rhinestones on it. My mom didn't want me to wear that. She wanted me to wear a different outfit that she had bought. And so I realized I was not going to win that battle. And so I just wore the outfit that she wanted me to wear. But I put the jean jacket that I wanted to wear for the picture in my fucking backpack. And then for the school picture, I put the jean jacket on. And then later, my mom saw the pictures and got super fucking pissed off, right? But like, was that not a psyop? And I was capable of doing that at like 5 years old. So like, right. Okay. This is from someone called Source Creator. Project Looking Glass, a government project that sees into the future and inserts different scenarios into a supercomputer to predict the outcome and destiny of humanity's future. Years ago, some brilliant minds figured out that something big was coming up. Something that made it so all the possibilities of all future scenarios of any choice, or possibly that was fed in and observed through the looking glass, inevitably ended up in the same future. And no decision and no possibility changed past a certain point. That's the big secret. All possible timelines lead to the same basic history in the future. They realized that nothing could be manipulated beyond that point. This quote-unquote bottlenecking or convergence of timelines has occurred since December 21st, 2012, and as of now, we have all been on a timeline in which the same inevitable outcome will unfold. And the elites of the world, the quote-unquote bad guys, you could say, that have all the information in regards to Looking Glass, saw that no matter what they did to change things or control the reactions of humanity, it would always create the opposite effect and the results remained the same. The reason why Q has been so good at countering the quote-unquote bad guys' agenda was because the quote-unquote good guys or alliance/white hats also have access to the Looking Glass. This was mentioned in a drop back in November of 2019. This is the Great Awakening. It's an evolution of consciousness that cannot, will not, and no matter what decisions or possibilities are injected into the equation, eventually it all results down to us learning the truth and becoming aware of this massive dam of lies that has been built to keep us from knowing massive volumes of information. Project Looking Glass explained by Military Insider. Is he talking about QAnon? Q?
Yeah, that's why this is in the most unhinged theory, because, yeah, it ties into QAnon, which we've covered in the past as well, so go look that up if you guys want to listen to it. But the YouTube video referenced in this comment at the very end, the guy says, hey, check out this video about Project Looking Glass explained by Military Insider. If you try to click on it, not only is that video deleted, but whatever channel it was associated with is also completely deleted now, so we can't watch it together, but I'll summarize the theory for everybody. The most extreme theory is sometimes called the blueprint theory, often tied online to the conspiracy theory known as Project Looking Glass, a rumored government time viewing technology. According to this belief system, the Illuminati cards aren't predictions at all. They're just a roadmap to the future. This theory claims that powerful groups already know what will happen in the future and are using media like the Illuminati game to both signal and execute their plans. In this version, the cards are essentially a public version of a classified playbook, laying out events long before they occur, with the raid on Steve Jackson Games interpreted as an attempt to retrieve or suppress material that went too far in revealing the future. Whether you see the Illuminati card game as harmless satire, a cryptic warning, or a playbook for the shadowy elite, one thing is undeniable. Its strange history has blurred the line between parody and reality. A simple deck of cards, allegedly meant to mock conspiracy theory culture, has instead become a cornerstone of it, fueling decades of speculation, viral internet debates, and late night rabbit holes. Maybe it's all a coincidence, a trick of the human mind trying to find patterns in chaos. Or maybe, as the game itself suggests, the world really is being run by secret groups playing a game of their own. Only this time, the stakes are real and we're the pieces on the board. And that is the story of the Illuminati Card Game Conspiracy. Nat, what are your thoughts?
What an episode. This is probably my favorite episode ever. It's just so simple, right? Like card game with pictures of fucked up shit that's happened. Crazy, you know? The proof is in the pudding right there. It's like no one can be like, oh, those cards didn't exist. They did exist. And your only like viewpoint you can take on it is like whether you think it was all coincidence or not. And I don't know, even if it's okay, like even if you are a fucking limp dick skeptic, you know, dry pussy skeptic, whatever. The fact that our government is so predictable, like, and humankind is so predictable that you could predict how, like, many different ways humanity would fall, you know, and like put it onto cards and it actually be kind of fucking true, like over the course of 30, 40 years is crazy. And it just shows you, you know, how maybe not far off quote unquote conspiracies are. And without getting too political, I do feel that there is a trend, like over the past 5-6 years of like us realizing that like the offhanded shit you would say that was a conspiracy 5 or 6 years ago is now like generally like accepted as public opinion. So, you know, I don't know if that's the same for everyone. Maybe there's some people who can sound off who are from an older generation than us of just like, yeah, we all thought this was a conspiracy, then it ended up being true too. Is that just like a normal thing that happens? Or, you know, are we getting closer to a quote unquote great awakening?
Are we getting closer to the tape running out?
Yeah. I don't understand like why when the tape runs out, the world cracks in half. It's like the world a giant Fabergé egg and God is like really excited.
Wow. Yeah, it's those little sugar spun holiday treats that your grandma would get from the store for Easter. And it's like, you know, the clear, I don't know if you had these, but my grandma had so many Fabergé eggs made out of sugar for Easter. You could buy them and they would be like elaborately decorated and it had like a little clear window. You could look through the sugar egg and see like a little scene made out of sugar inside the egg. Yeah. Is that also predictive programming? And they're just getting us ready for the egg that is our universe to crack open. And the little sugar scene is actually aliens. I don't know, guys. It's fun. I like these types of episodes because, contrary to popular belief, I feel that conspiracy theories take less brain power. I think they're really fun. It's just like suspend your disbelief, have a good time, listen to some crazy shit. And I also like this game in general. And Steve Jackson is still alive. He was born in, you know, the 50s. It's not like he's 1,000 years old. He's still alive, still doing interviews from time to time and making games. And I'm just stuck on the fact that he got raided by the Secret Service. That is insane. All because of, like, you know, the lawsuit later found that he was targeted unfairly for something that, like, actually wasn't a big deal. And we all know governments are inefficient and stupid, and sometimes they just do shit to justify their own job. It's like your weird coworker. I'm just thinking specifically of my boyfriend right now without going into what he does. Like, he'll be like, God, this guy's just trying to justify his job. Like, there's nothing wrong with the work. He just wants me to like spend time explaining to him how I got this number or why I'm including this in the final report, because that's the only way he has a job is if he can like talk about why I did what I did or whatever. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, governments definitely do that too. Nobody wants to be without a job. So they're like, no, my job is important. I actually need to go raid this small niche tabletop gaming company in Austin, Texas, because they're going to hack the 911 emergency system. And then later it comes out like, no, they weren't. Like, what are you talking about?
I like the kind of paranormal supernatural theory that like these cards are kind of like tarot cards and that the way that people are like laying them out is sort of like casting some sort of spell and like creating our future. You know, like, is this
That's
like an
fun,
ancient
too.
sigil or something where you
Yeah.
put these cards down in a certain order and it's like calling into existence what you put down, like the never-ending story?
Oh, shit. As we often say on this show, who is to say? We're not ruling it out.
In fact, we're ruling it in.
That's right. And for those of you who maybe are feeling a little bit unsteady after listening to this episode, because you can spin off into various directions very easily, I would just recommend go to a park right now, sit on the grass. Yeah, roll around. Get a grass stain on your pants. Like, just remember that the world is beautiful. Nothing is that serious. Except for maybe it is, because maybe the aliens are playing tarot and we're all gonna die. But other than that, nothing's that serious. So thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, I love this episode. I will be thinking about this for a very long time. This is a great episode to get your friends hooked on LGH, guys. Share it, like, subscribe. And we love you.
That reminds me, sometimes at night, you know when your animal is in the room with you and you're like pretending to be its voice? You'll be like, I don't want to go to bed right now or whatever. Sometimes my dog Winnie, I'll be like, all right guys, Winnie's going to bed. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Winnie's World. And then she just like walks into her crate. Yeah, I don't know what.
Cute.
That just reminded me. So yeah, guys, like and subscribe to Let's Get Haunted. Give it a thumbs up. Give us 5 stars if you enjoyed this episode. And if you didn't enjoy the episode, give us 5 stars anyway, because we get together every single week against all odds and record a basically 1 to 2 hour show for you guys for free. So just give us 5 stars. It doesn't affect your algorithm. We've asked the big streaming platforms if it does, and they confirmed it does not. So thank you all very much for tuning in. Nat, would you like to do our sign off for this week's episode?
Yes. BRB gonna go rewind the tape so that it can never run out and will continue to live in the same set of outliers and outcomes that have always been and always will be within our future while living on the tape in the simulation.
Bye. Hey, Haunties! Welcome to the closing credits for episode 237, The Illuminati Card Game Conspiracy. Now's the time of the show where we shout out our donors. And this month, we are shouting out our donors from the month of August 2025. Specifically, on this week's episode, I have the pleasure of shouting out everyone whose name starts with the letters E through K. If you'd like to become a donor and hear your name shouted out on a future episode, head over to patreon.com/c/letsgethaunted, where you will not only get a shout out, but you'll also get access to episode extras, mini-sodes, personal hauntings, live streams, and much, much more. This week, we'd like to thank Echo Rain, Ed B, El Deuterino, Elizabeth P, Ellen W.O., Ellie, Emily, Emily B, Emily H, Emily O, Emily R, Emily W, Emily C, Emma D, M Storm, Erica M, Erica A, Felicia G, Fenrir U, Frank D, Fred H, Freddie F, Fresh Zombie, Gabrielle, Ghoul Gorl, Taylor, Ghost of 7-Eleven, Grandma Painter, Haley C, Halye L, Haley L, Hannah RK, Hasbro Ouija Board, Haley G, Haley A, Hexylvania Snow, Hugo A, Hunter S, Ileana RN, Ileana RN, Inky Pop Art, Isabel L, Isabella, it's Kelsifer, Ivan L, Yvonne L, Jackie L, Jacob, JDKP, Jamit, Jamie F, Jasmine B, Jasmine, Christine, Jason G, Javier M, J.M., Jamie L., J.D., Jeff W., Jen M., Jenna M., Jennifer C., Jennifer W., Jenny B., Jenny Squiddy, Jesselyn, Joaquin E., Jocelyn, John H., Jordan C., Jordan L., Jose P., Julia C., Julia M., Julie C., Juliet H., June E., Justin M.C., Justine D., Kate M., Cardon 47, Karen H, Karen K, Karina C, Carly K, Carly M, Kat, Kat and Ellis the Mellis, Katie Cat, K to the win, Kayla M, Kelsey, Kelsey K, Kelsey E, Kelsey L, Conspiracy, Kendra, Kimberly F, Kindred and Amber, Kirsten C, Kittenish Kate, Corky M, Corey with a K, Christy B, Kristen K, and Kylie K. Woo, 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 woo. Pew, 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 pew. Thank you guys so much for being donors of our show. We really cannot run this show without you. I know we say it every single week, but we really truly mean it. This year has been such a whirlwind. Every year it gets harder and harder to make this show. It is really hard to do this show. And just trust me when I say that we would not be doing this without each and every one of you. We could not do it without each and every one of you. So we are just so grateful that we have been able to continue this show for 7 seasons now, which is crazy, incredible. And if we didn't have you guys, we would not have continued it past season 1, and certainly would not have continued it now 6, almost 7 years later. So we are very appreciative of all of you that help us keep the lights on at LGH or keep the lights off, depending on how you look at it. We just love you guys so much. And I know we say it all the time to the point where it probably has lost meaning, but it is really important for me that you guys know how appreciative I am of you all. And I know Nat is too. And it just means so much to us that we have a community that has our back when things go south. And things have gone real south this year. And just very much look forward to getting out of this quagmire that we are stuck in. It seems like everything has been going wrong for us this year, and not to make this negative, but I just want you guys to know that it's not like we're doing fucking amazing and your donations don't matter. Like, no, we've really been relying heavily on our Patreon income this year to keep the podcast going. And so thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And now it's time for that point in the show where we give you our secret password. If you're new here and aren't sure what it is, all you got to do is listen up, because I'm going to tell you a magical combination of words that will unlock one entry into our end of the year raffle where you will get something free. We never know what it is until we get to that point, but usually it's merch. Sometimes it's unreleased merch. Sometimes it's merch that was released but is no longer on the store. So if you want to enter the raffle, all you have to do is listen up for the secret password, head over to our Instagram at Let's Get Haunted, find the corresponding photo dump for episode 237, and leave the secret password in the comments. Your secret password for this week's episode is Fabergé eggs are predictive programming. All right, guys, see you next week. Bye.